All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, the New York Mets just wrapped up a series with the Atlanta Braves that saw them take 2 out of 3 from their National League East rival. And as I stated the other day, even though that it is mid-July, this was still an important series in the NL East. The Mets took the field for this series with a 1.5 game lead in the division over the Braves, but now they leave town in possession of a 2.5 game lead. And for the Mets, I think that the tone was set in game 1 of the series when starting pitcher Max Scherzer gave the Mets 7 innings of 1 run baseball while he struck out 9. The Mets had solid starting pitching throughout the series as the Mets pitching staff overall just limited Atlanta to 8 runs throughout the 3 games. You also go back to game number 1, Edwin Diaz coming in the ninth inning and being lights out. He struck out the side. That was big. Now, obviously, Atlanta came back, and just like the Mets won 4-1 in the first game, the Braves won 4-1 last night. And then the Mets were able to take the rubber game today. And a big reason why the Mets were able to win this series, the bat of Francisco Lindor. He went 3 for 5 in game number 1. And then, of course, he had that huge 3 run blast early on in the contest today to give the Mets a 4-0 lead when they were already at 1-0. And then, of course, the rest is history. Luis Guillorme as well swung a solid bat in this series for the Mets. Another one of those unsung heroes that really stepped up and answered the bell. And for me, just like I said prior to the start of this series, I said that it was going to be important for the Mets to win this series, not only win this series, but keep their lead in first place in this division. And I say that from the standpoint that the Braves have run this division in recent years. There's no mistake about that. They are the defending champs. And you think about how last season played out for both of these clubs. The Mets were in first place for the majority of the year. They fell out of first place. Not only did they not make the playoffs, but they also finished with a losing record. And of course, we saw the run that the Braves went on. And the Braves, they started off slow this year. The Mets have been consistent, and then the Braves have really gotten going, and they cut about 8 games or 9 games rather off of their deficit in the National League East. And just for the sake of argument, had the Mets had gotten swept in this series and left town in second place in this division, it would have left a bitter taste in their mouths. Of course, the media and their fan base would have been letting them hear it. And then on top of that, it's something to possibly think about if you're the Mets heading into the All-Star break. However, that is not the case. New York was able to increase their lead by 1 game. Obviously, there is still plenty of baseball that is left to be played. We are in mid-July, and these teams do still have plenty of games left against each other. So, it's a situation, it's not going to be any scoreboard watching right now, obviously, from any one of those teams. But for the Mets, I think it was important to win this series. They've had the next man up philosophy all season long, which is a credit to their manager, Buck Showalter. We saw that the Mets were short armed, or they didn't have their full complement of players heading into this series. The likes of Jeff McNeil not being there, just to name a few, and these guys have stepped up and took care of their business. Now, for me, the Mets cannot afford to slow down. And I say that because they have a 4 game set this weekend at Wrigley against the Chicago Cubs. And, the Cubs are not going to be a playoff team this year, obviously. But if you're the Mets, you have to go out there and find a way to take this series as well. You cannot take a step back after you were able to go out there and beat a quality team in the defending World Series champions. And with that said, the Braves have a 4 game set in DC against the Washington Nationals. And the Nats at this point, they're already basically in preparations for 2023. The Braves have been one of the hotter teams in baseball overall in the last month or so. And a lot of that is because they have been taking care of their business against the teams that they're supposed to beat. So if you're the Mets, you definitely want to go out there and take care of business. But getting back to Monday's game being so important for the Mets, not only did Scherzer give them the pitching performance that he did, the Mets also gave him some offense, and that's something that we've seen in the past over the years from the Mets, even dating back 10, 15 years or so, where their ace is out there, he gives them a quality performance and then they don't score the runs. That was not the case Monday night. Like I said, that allowed the Mets to set the tone in this series, and the rest is history. So credit to Buck Showalter, credit to the Mets for taking this series. Like I said, still plenty of baseball that is left to be played. The Braves and Mets are going to be playing each other plenty throughout the rest of the season, but this definitely increases New York's chances, at least, of finishing the first half of the season in first place in this division. They want to keep this momentum going. The Braves ain't going away. I think this is going to be a solid race in the East until the very end. You have two very good teams here. I expect both of them to be buyers at the trade deadline and getting some quality parts to enhance their not only their postseason but potential championship runs as well. But getting back to the present, the Mets were able to take care of their business versus the Braves. Now let's see if they can find a way to build off of that. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.